Hey guys and girls, Bored now back with you, and on this video I return to Stranger Things. So this is going to be my review of Stranger Things 3, Chapter 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. It is my second least favourite episode of the show, up to this point on this rewatch. So, yeah, it's a frustrating one, this one. I think in many ways it feels like a filler episode. It's not as good as, filler episodes from, the previous two seasons. And it's a frustrating episode because there's definitely stuff I like in it, and there's definitely stuff which by the end of the episode I think, oh, okay, now we're coming together. And the way the episode ends, for me personally, is really strong. I really like the ending. So there's some good stuff with Max and Al in the episode. There's some good stuff, Tim and Steve and Robin in the mall, but some of the other stuff I'm not too keen on, so I guess I'll get that out of the way. But I think a couple of things about the episode that I'm not too keen on. Firstly, I think there are some beats that are a bit overdone and feel maybe a bit too repetitive. And the other problem is, I think at times the episode is a bit too melodramatic with some direction and choices. So I think the stuff with Will I find quite annoying in this episode, where he's trying to get Mike and Lucas's mind off the girls. They're obviously having issue with Al and Max, and to try and get their attention, he encourages them to play Dungeons and Dragons, and he dresses up as a wizard. It drags on, and I think when he starts whining and complaining, it just comes off as a bit too forced. I think if there was less of it, and because even the stuff with him as the wizard and trying to engage them in the game, I didn't even find that entertaining, or it's just this thing. And there is a good scene with him and Mike where they actually have a fight outside, where Mike says, sorry then you don't like girls, but I mean, what did you think? Did you think we were going to spend our whole lives in our basements playing video games? It's a good conversation for them to be having, and it does fit with the theme of the season so far, because we saw that in the opening episode and we've seen that with Dustin. And I think part of the thing about this season is slowly bringing them back together. So that scene when Will and Mike have an argument over it, I like that scene. I just don't like some of the build-up, and there's a scene later with Will which is really bad, and it's the scene where he goes back to the hut and we get some flashbacks of happier times with him and the gang, them dressed up as Ghostbusters, and it's just really badly done, where he starts having a breakdown and he starts smashing up the den. And it's that sort of scene that I'm talking about with the melodrama. And the trouble is the camera lingers on it too much, and the music is just a bit too on the nose. I think it would be a better scene if they just had Will take one shot at the thing and then it cuts away, rather than lingering on it. So a lot of the Will stuff I didn't really care about in this episode, even though it does have a purpose. And by the end of the episode, when they find him out by the hut, he says they're back, and he's obviously talking about the mind flares. So it does actually lead to something. It's just watching it in the episode, I didn't really care that much about it, and I thought it was quite badly done. And the other stuff that really bothered me was the stuff with Hopper and with Joyce. I mean, particularly Hopper, because he's drunk and he's pissed at her that she stood him up, and even when she explains to him, he's still being an arse about it and getting all jealous, when she mentioned she went over and saw the science teacher, and he's not willing to believe her, because he feels her evidence is a bit sketchy scene. I think the way it plays out too much like a sitcom scene, where again I think the camera spends too much time on Hopper, and it's actually not like entertaining deadpan Hopper like we're used to. So it's sort of just this one scene, and I think again I'm sort of happy in the knowledge we're probably going to move past that now. But anyway, Joyce, talks him into going to the lab with him. Joyce is thinking about moving house, so there's a nice moment with her and Hopper, who's like dressed as a biker, who just attacks Hopper from behind and badly beats him up. Nancy and Jonathan in this, the main bulk is then Nancy talks him into like pursuing this case, and because when she goes to like the assholes that she works with, they're all mocking her and teasing her, and I think some of that stuff, again, although I can see why it's there, could have been maybe cut out. Woman, to like get evidence for the like editors. So they go to her house, possessed. She's really hyper, and she's actually feeding off the dead rats, which is obviously really gross. And yeah, she goes crazy and needs to be taken to hospital. El and Max, I think, definitely is really good. We see at the start of the episode that El's uses her power Mike's head or get inside that space so they can find out what's being said about them. And I do like the chemistry between these two, and there's some good reactions from Max. Brings up this idea of Elle maybe not always using her powers for good. Mike about how girls are emotional, not rational, and Max's reaction to that is pretty funny. Also, who's Billy? So this is where it's leading, because this actually does link up to stuff, and they obviously Elle sees that he's like standing over a body, Hannah's body, the lifeguard, and Billy can actually see into her as well, like he can sense that she's like watching him. They go looking for like Billy, and they go to like this to like where he works, and they find out that this girl Hannah hasn't shown up for work, and they're sort of suspicious, so they go and track Hannah down her house, and it's all really sort of off-putting, kind of creepy, like 1950s happy family. Find Billy there having like dinner with Hannah's parents, and it's like, okay, what the hell's going on here? And it's, as I said, all too good to be true. But then another like reveal in that scene is then like Nancy and Jonathan's editor is Hannah's dad, so I guess that's quite a nice little link up. And finally comes down, tells she's not herself, like she's again talking in this kind of really forced sort of robotic style way, and like, do you want some cookies? But it's again playing on that all-American creepy sort of vibe. Really good stuff, because Elle and Max leave because Max is convinced that that's it, then Hannah was just ill and stuff, but you can tell Elle isn't quite, and she obviously has powers, so she sees a bit more into what might be going on. And Billy also, because he can sense stuff back, he actually senses then something's up, and he actually sees the end of season 2 where they like close the gate. They use American Pie as the song, which is just perfect. But the very end of the episode is that they kill, or that Hannah goes after her mother and like knocks her out and brutally like attacks her, and that's sort of how the episode ends. So obviously it now looks like Hannah's parents are going to be next to be like possessed and maybe fed to the thing. So it's a really good end of the episode. It's quite pulpy and fun, and it's pretty creepy as well. So it definitely ends on a high and sets some good stuff up. And the other highlight is, of course, Dustin and Steve in the mall with Robin, and them, just the visual of them looking through the binoculars for like Russian spies, and then they're sort of talking about, well, do you even know what a Russian looks like? And they're sort of like using stereotypes. He, sees like this girl he sort of likes, and she's with this guy, and he's kind of like, are you kidding me, sort of thing. And once again, it's sort of a reference back to when Steve was kind of seen as like the quote unquote popular kid at school, and Dustin's line about "you're the worst spy ever" is really funny, but he's also giving him relationship advice, and he's kind of saying Robin's the one for you, like she understands you, she's grounded, all this stuff. She's like weird but in a good sort of way. I think they've spotted the Russian, but they follow this guy, and he's dressed in black, he's got glasses and duffel bag, and I like that they really highlight the duffel bag as like a giveaway, and they follow him, and it turns out he's just this really hunky aerobics instructor, and they just see his like class and him, getting all jazzed up and motivating these like older people, and their reaction is really funny. But that's a great gag. The payoff to that joke is like really funny. Robin, who figures something out, like she cracks the code in this, and it's because when there's a delivery from this guy and the company is like Lex or something they're called, and because of him and because of certain shops in certain places in the mall, she actually works out the code, and sort of through that she works out where they might be based. Find this base warehouse, and there seems to be like arms or different things being delivered there. So they're pretty sure they've got their Russians by the end of the episode. I guess the next step is getting inside the base and sort of finding out what things are going on. But once again, like the chemistry between Steve and Dustin is so great, and the banter, and you just enjoy these three as a trio, like figuring things out. And also Robin is a good addition to the cast. I really like the actress, and I think she adds something a bit different to the mix as well, because she's obviously not as goofy as the other two. She's a bit more straight talking, a bit more like grounded, so, but still with like a wit to her, a spark to her. So I think she actually gels well with them because she is a little bit different. But good performance by Maya Hawkes. So there you have it. So that's the episode. So definitely, in my opinion, a lesser episode. Definitely the weakest of this season so far. But I'm sort of confident then it'll get back on track next time. That's my review of Stranger Things Season 3, Episode 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media, and I'll be back with more Stranger Things soon. Thanks for listening.